Hi, I'm Anne-Marie with Speak Confident English, and welcome to your Confident English Wednesday lesson. If your goal is to improve your English language skills, build your confidence and your fluency in English, then you're in the right place. And today we're going to focus on how you can be more polite in English at work. All of the skills that you're going to learn can also be used in everyday life when you want to be polite, or if you're in very formal situations with people that you're meeting for the first time or friends. But we'll focus the examples on workplace situations so that when you are communicating at work, you can always be polite instead of rude or aggressive to assertive, and that will help you make what you want to accomplish in English even easier. In today's video lesson, I'm going to share with you several ways that you can use language to help you be more polite, some secrets that you might want to learn about how English works and our rules of politeness. And then in the online lesson, I've also provided you with additional examples so that you can review them, become more familiar, and of course, as always, there's a practice opportunity for you at the end of the lesson. So let's get started with your first tip for how to be more polite in English at work. So your first tip is to remember that modals are your friend. Never forget your modals. Modals are those words like could, might, would, and we use those to soften our language, make it sound more kind and more polite. We use those modals to replace direct verbs. You've probably heard this tip before. It's very common in grammar books and in English language classrooms, but here are a couple of examples of how you can use it in real life. Imagine that you are either writing an email to a colleague or speaking to them face-to-face at a business meeting or on the telephone, and they have something that you need very quickly. Maybe they have a document or some sales numbers, and you could say, "Get me those documents by the end of the day," or "Send me those documents this afternoon." You could say that. Those are very direct instructions, but you could soften that, make it more polite by saying, "Would you send those to me by this afternoon? Could you get me those documents by the end of the day?" Just simply changing those verbs to modals softens that language and makes you sound much more polite. Tip number 2 is change your grammar tense. The present simple in English can sometimes sound very direct. So to give some distance or to sound a little bit more indirect, more polite, we change the grammar form. And when we do that in English, we can use the past simple, the present or past progressive, or the future tenses. The progressive is that ing form that we have in English. So in this video, I'm going to give you an example where I change a present simple question to the past simple to give some distance, some more politeness in the question. But make sure that you go to the online lesson so you can also see examples of how we might change a question or a sentence into the progressive tenses or a future tense to help us with that politeness. So let's imagine you are at a networking event. You see someone that you know that you've met them, but you cannot remember their name. And you feel terrible. You want a polite way to ask them what their name is again. So you could say, "What is your name?" And that's okay. Or "What is your name again? I'm sorry, I forgot it." You could use that, and that's fine, but it does feel a little bit direct, maybe a little aggressive, too aggressive. So if we change it to the past tense, we could say, "What did you say your name was?" "I'm sorry, what did you say your name was again?" Simply changing to the past simple gives us that distance and that politeness that we're looking for. Tip number 3 is to use vague language, or what we also call in English qualifiers. Vague language means not clear, not specifically defined, not so direct. So let's imagine that you're working with someone on a project. They have one part of the project, you have the other, and they've completed their part, and you're looking at it and you think, "That's not right. It's not what I wanted. It's incorrect. It's wrong." You could say to your business partner, "That's wrong. That's incorrect. That's not what I want." But those are also considered to be aggressive expressions and might even be offensive or rude. So to soften that, to express the same thing but in a more polite way, you could say, "That's not quite right. That's not quite what I wanted." Using that expression, "not quite," a qualifier, gives us that sense of softness, of politeness, so that we're not being so aggressive and potentially hurting the other person's feelings or being too offensive. We also use this sometimes when we're talking about the time of something starting or even ending. For example, if you're having a business dinner with colleagues and it's not so important that everyone is there exactly at the right time, you could say, "Dinner starts around 8," instead of saying dinner starts at 8. Using that simple word "around" gives some vagueness and some openness. It's okay if people are a little, maybe 5 or 10 minutes late. Now, at a business meeting or a job interview, if someone says the job interview is at noon or the business meeting starts at 10:30 in the morning, don't be late for those. There is a reason those sentences are direct. It means that the business meeting starts on time, the job interview starts on time. You can't be late for those. But if it's a social event and someone says, "Come around 8," or "dinner is at 8-ish," it simply means that there's some room. It's not so set or defined. Make sure that you visit the online lesson for more examples of different expressions or words that you can use to help soften your language, make it a little bit vague so it's not quite so defined or direct. Tip number 4 is use negative questions. Using negative questions to express your opinions, your recommendations, your advice, to ask questions can be a great way to be diplomatic and polite. So we use these in formal social situations and formal business. Imagine that you're at a business meeting with senior level management from your company or another company. This is the perfect time to use negative questions. So let's look at a couple of examples. First, let's imagine that you're at a social situation. You are, again, maybe networking with colleagues. You introduce yourself to someone. You give them your name, your job title, where you're from, what you do. And they respond with, "Yeah, I'm Susan. We've met before." Okay, I'm going to be honest. If someone said that to me, "We've met before," I would think, "Wow, sorry. I didn't mean to, I'm sorry, I don't remember you." And I would be a little bit defensive because that expression can be a little bit too aggressive, rude, too direct. So instead, she could say, "Hi, I'm Susan. Haven't we met before?" I'm using a negative question. I'm absolutely being more diplomatic. Yes, in my mind, I know that we've met before. I remember the last conference we were at, but I'm being diplomatic and kind and polite to you by simply asking, "Haven't we met before?" It completely eliminates any possibility for offense or aggression. And if someone says that and you could think, "Oh, I don't remember, I'm not sure. Oh, you're right, we met at the last conference. I'm so sorry." That entire conversation is softened when we use that negative question. Let's look at another example. This time you're at a business meeting and there's senior level management, so you're a little bit nervous and you don't want to be too direct or aggressive in the meeting because this senior level management, this person is there. And maybe you're having a discussion about something and you know that they are forgetting something really important. Maybe they're talking sales numbers or brainstorming about upcoming marketing strategies. They are forgetting something really important and big, and you want to provide your advice or recommendation, but you don't want to be so aggressive about it. You could say, "Oh, I'm sorry, but don't you think we should? Don't you think we should?" Or, "Shouldn't we include something?" And then your idea. Simply using that negative way of asking a question, "Shouldn't we?" or "Don't you think?" Those immediately allow for a more diplomatic way for you to introduce your particular idea, your advice, your opinion, or recommendation. Make sure again that you visit the online lesson for a few more examples. And with that, you have 4 great strategies to get you started on being more polite at work so that you can accomplish what you want more easily and, of course, more politely. As you already know, in the online lesson, I've given you several more examples with each of those strategies, and I've given you a couple other strategies as well so that you can use each of those in different ways when they will help you the most. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave your questions in the comments section of the online lesson and answer the challenge questions to get some practice. With that, thank you so much for joining me. I love having you here every Wednesday, and I'll see you next week for your Confident English lesson.